Hey everyone, welcome back to Cincinnati Zoo Tales. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Mark. Thanks to all you listeners for tuning into another great episode. We've got a fun one today, Jenna. We're learning about something that I personally need to get a lot more educated about, so I'm excited for this episode. We're talking about sustainability here at the Cincinnati Zoo. We're being joined by the two perfect people to educate us on this. Two members of our facilities team who specialize in sustainability, Mallory Garrissey, who is our net zero project manager here at the zoo, and Megan O'Keefe, who is our sustainability project manager here. Thank you both for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come chat with us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for having us. This is exciting.
Yes, I feel like there's a lot that goes on at the zoo that most of our listeners may not even know is happening, and that even myself, I have no idea that all these special things that you guys are working on, and honestly, I don't really know what you do on a day-to-day basis. So I don't know if one of you wants to go first. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into the position that you are in.
Okay, I can start.
Mallory's starting.
Yes. So I've been at the zoo for 3 years now, this June. Before that, I was working at Ohio State. So I went to Ohio State for undergrad and then worked there a little bit after I graduated, just because I needed a job. But my sophomore year, I actually met my friend Bailey, who now also works here in the conservation department, on a Mountaineers trip. So it was like a camping spring break trip, and she was telling me about her job and what she did, and she worked for the sustainability office there, which was also in the facilities department. She was like, yeah, I walk around and I look at trash dumpsters, and I was like, what? Tell me more about that.
You just go dumpster diving as your job?
So basically, yeah. So basically that trip is kind of how I learned about sustainability. There were a lot of sustainability-minded folks on that trip, as you could imagine. So I met up with her one day between classes as she was doing her job, walking to look at dumpsters. Basically, Rumpke had rejected Ohio State recycling because it was so contaminated. So part of her job was to walk around and look at the recycling dumpsters, and if they had a bunch of black bags in them, she would tell our driver to pick it up as trash, not recycling. Trash nerd stuff, but
I love it.
Important stuff.
Yeah. So basically, she hooked me up with her boss, and I started working there as a student. At that point, it was too late to change my major again, so I just picked up a sustainability minor. Worked in that facilities department for a while. It kind of shifted into mostly a waste management type position, so I did a lot of compost initiatives at Ohio State and things like that. A lot of education, but also a lot of dirty work, like picking up pallets and cleaning out buildings and things like that. So then my boss from that job met Stephanie Ritchie, who used to be the sustainability director here, and she was like, I need help. Who do you know? So that's kind of how I got hooked up there.
That's awesome. Is there anything in your childhood that made you interested in sustainability? Because growing up, I didn't really even have an idea what sustainability was.
Yeah, so I didn't, kind of like you, I never really knew, that word wasn't in my vernacular really, but my family is very outdoorsy. All of our vacations growing up were camping at state parks in Ohio. Both my parents are outdoorsy. My mom really likes wildflowers and all that stuff, and she's always been very environmentally conscious. Just at home, little stuff. She would always cover our windows every winter in that plastic stuff to, a lot of it related to cost stuff too. But so I kind of picked up a lot of that from her and my parents, and so just always wanted to be outdoorsy and stuff. And my degree was in zoology, which is also what my mom did.
Oh, okay.
She was a vet tech for a while, and so just kind of always in my life.
Did you ever consider you wanted to be a zookeeper or work with animals since you have zoology, or were you going a whole different path with that?
I really had no idea what I was going to do with it. It was kind of, so I went into college looking to do social work.
Oh, okay.
And then was just kind of really missing the science from my life, and my advisor was just pick a major with classes that sound cool. And so I picked zoology, having really no idea where I was going to go with that. So it's kind of a weird, I found the perfect spot. Bailey and I also did a random, she was a enrichment intern at the Columbus Zoo, for a couple summers, and so we did a research project with the giraffe there. So that's kind of how I got a little bit of like zoo world introduction.
It's a small world, and it's funny because we actually, our last episode that we recorded was with Bailey.
Yeah, what are the odds? She does it recently, but so it's kind of just a perfect matchup.
Awesome. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about what you do here in a second. We'll let Megan introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Tell us about how you ended up where you are now.
Yeah, sure. So we know each other, of course, from back in the day. I used to be a zookeeper here. Always was obsessed with animals. Definitely directed my education and career that way. My undergraduate degree is in biology, with the intention of working hands-on with animals. That's why I pursued that degree. Worked on a farm all through college, and then became a volunteer here at the Cincinnati Zoo. Took multiple temporary and seasonal keeper positions, applied for every full-time job under the sun, being a keeper, and then, of course, one stuck. I landed a full-time job in Manatee Springs, working with manatees. It was such a great experience. Our program here facilitates the release of these animals. So they come sick, they get better, and then they're released into the wild. So it really was a dream come true, and I did that for a few years. After that position, I resigned on a good note because I wanted to travel and see the world. I wanted some different opportunities. Yeah, best thing I could have done. Extremely hard decision to leave that position and to leave this institution. I worked so hard to get that job, and I just love this place so much. One of the hardest decisions of my life, but one of the best decisions. Left for 6 years, saw the world, traveled everywhere, all over Asia. I spent a year in Australia. I lived in Shanghai. I was in France for 3.5 years, and eventually rerouted to a master's program at Miami University called the Global Field Program. And I completed that program with the intention of getting involved in a sustainability position. I started researching climate change mitigation, sustainability initiatives all over the world, and I just had a bigger picture mindset than when I was here working with animals, and kind of changed directions and ended up co-oping here my last year of my graduate program, and when I returned from my travels, and that was in 2023, took a full-time position in the sustainability department at the end of 2023 when I graduated, and here I am today.
That's crazy. I mean, I can't believe you've been gone that long, actually. Or that you were gone that long, actually, is what was going through my mind.
We might have to just sidetrack this whole episode and just tell us about your travels.
That's all. Afterwards, I want to hear about your favorite places.
I will say one thing. I lived out of a backpack for most of it, and it was just me and my backpack and my iPhone. So I learned a lot about minimalism and reducing my dependence on our natural resources. I saw a lot of destruction all over the world related to pollution and climate change and the destruction of habitat for animals, for things like palm oil plantations and so forth and so forth and so forth. And it was so widespread and so devastating that it just kind of solidified my intention that, okay, I need to help with this.
And it's kind of fitting that you've come to the sustainability side, that you were used to be one of our Manatee Springs keepers, because like you said, that's a really unique program where we take these animals who have been injured for one reason or another in the wild, whether it's a boat accident, whether it's cold water stress, whatever it may be. They come to us and we kind of recuperate them, and I think that's kind of your job now with natural resources, right? Is to recuperate our natural resources.
I hope so. Yeah, we're trying to move the needle one sustainability project at a time, and it's all related to conservation. If we can save our natural resources and save these habitats and promote clean energy, everybody wins.
Yeah, we've been, in the last year or so, really working closely with the Conservation Department and Lily and Bailey, and talking about how we can sort of combine our efforts that are obviously very related, but sort of focus our collective messaging around ecosystem level, right? obviously, yes, saving manatees and all the species we're trying to save is so important, but kind of keeping in mind that bigger picture and articulating that is something we've been thinking about a lot.
Definitely, yeah. So tell us about that. Like, you're working on a lot of projects, your net zero project. Like, can you explain to listeners what that means and what your goal is?
Yeah, I guess, so I think kind of the main focus for the zoo as a whole for the last, like, I don't even know, 10 years? When did net zero goals become a thing? Yeah,
10, 5.
Have been our net zero goals, which I think, did you do an episode with Mark?
A while back, yes.
Okay, so he probably talked about that, net zero energy, water
Oh,
waste.
would you refresh us? Yeah, refresh us. What are the net zero goals?
So net zero energy, water waste by 2025. Each of those kind of with their own definition. Water, wanting to collect and reuse every drop of water that falls on our campus. Electricity, wanting to produce more power than we use from solar panels. And then waste, diverting 90% or more of our waste by weight from the landfill. So that's kind of been our main focus, I guess. Yeah. Like, all of our projects are very focused on that. Especially me, the waste is kind of my main focus. But in the last year, it's kind of like, okay, 2025 is like right around the corner. It's kind of like, what's next? Like, what are we thinking about now? So we've been working with a group called Veritas Group that does a lot of consulting work with different zoos and aquariums and other types of institutions across the country. But they do a lot of, like, climate action planning, data analysis, greenhouse gas analyses, things like that. So they're helping us with, we're calling it, we don't really know what it's
pathway to emissions reduction.
Like an emissions pathway and a local food systems
development pathway.
Yes. We don't know what.
Branding yet to come.
Yeah, exactly. That's part of their job, is to help us figure out, like, how to articulate these things, because we're, for us, like, we just are very big picture, and, like, obviously we want to have no emissions, but, like, that, what does that mean?
Right.
So it's been a lot of data collection right now is kind of the phase that we're in, and, like, figuring out where we can get data, where we have data gaps, things like employee commute, visitor commute.
Purchasing.
Coming from where all
where is our food coming from? And what Mallory is referencing is just one project, as I said, of many, and she's the waste queen. She's developed these zero waste events, which is a huge success, along with other team members at the zoo in different departments. But yeah, the emissions reduction pathway and engaging other teams at the zoo is just part of it. And as you mentioned, you don't know what we do, right? So we have also really focused on ramping up our communications so that we engage not only staff, but our visitors and our external partners, utilize the relationships that we have, make new relationships with environmental agencies in the region that are doing similar things, and then just, like, increase our collective impact. And since we're such experts at solar, we're generating now 65% of our power needs via our solar arrays. We have a lot to share with people. There's a huge energy burden in Cincinnati. As you know, utility bills are super expensive, and they're not going down anytime soon. And we're in a traditionally underserved neighborhood here in Avondale and Cincinnati, and we want to help people. So we have all this expertise in solar, and now we're taking leftover solar panels. We're leveraging our partnerships, and we've formalized a community solar resiliency program where we can continue to help our neighbors by sharing the benefits of renewable energy, putting solar arrays on trusted community organizations, churches, schools, fundamental agencies for servicing the neighborhood. And that's part of my job, is developing out that program, and we're really proud. Mallory helps tremendously in every aspect. I feel like we're kind of yin and yang. We throw a lot of stuff back and forth at each other, even though we have separate projects. We're definitely a team. And I'm really proud that we were doing 2 community solar projects this year, and
That's
they're
amazing.
funded, and
Yeah.
one's complete. We have another one coming up in September.
Yeah, I've seen like bits and pieces on social media and such of those projects. Can you tell us, like, is there more detail that you could give on that specific project? And like,
Yeah. So the one project we've already done with our partners is at Lydia's house. So they are a residence for survivors of domestic violence and their children. So great cause. And we donated all of the solar panels for that project. And then Sunlight Power, our installing partner, did the install. And then we helped source funding alongside Sunlight Power for a project at Horses on the Hill, which is a farm in the middle of Price Hill, which is another underserved neighborhood in Cincinnati. And they do equine therapy for people in recovery, for children recovering from trauma. They have a lot of family services. They also do urban farming, which we know is really important. Because we have a lot of food insecurity in this city, especially in these Justice 40 neighborhoods. And so we are putting solar on their barn, and we're hoping to get their utility bills to 0 so that they can take that money and then put it into the programming that the community needs.
That's incredible. Like, I have goosebumps right now because if you just think about like all that we are probably known for doing for like animal conservation, right? But there's so much more going on behind the scenes that's helping the community now, and like amazing institutions that like are helping others. We're helping them help others too. It's just like kind of incredible that the zoo is a part of all of these things. You wouldn't necessarily think of a zoo as doing those things.
Yeah, and I think that's something that makes our zoo really unique.
Yes.
Like when we go to conferences and we talk to other zoos, and a lot of people tend to be, like, what's the right word? I don't know, fascinated by it, because they're just like, how do you do that? So we do spend a lot of time thinking about how we can help influence other institutions to do the same thing, because we are really integral parts of the communities that we are in, right? Like everybody loves their zoo and their aquarium. So just thinking a lot about how we can amplify our impact.
Yeah.
So are you guys, I mean, so when you come to work, Megan, for example, are you like reaching out to other people and trying to form more partnerships? Are you looking at new ideas of how to be more sustainable? Or like, what does your day-to-day look
All the
like?
things.
All the things.
Yeah, it's really busy. It's really fast-paced. And Mallory and I, when we get a little bit of downtime, we're like, oh, wow, this week we don't have to write a 1,000,000-page grant application.
Okay, so you're writing grants.
We don't have to, run around like chickens with our head cut off, but there's always something to do. So we have 2 facilities on site, right, adjacent to the zoo that are container farms. I'm sure you've heard of it. So I help oversee that program where we are growing hydroponic lettuce for the animals. So that's a daily task. We have a hydroponic technician, Zach, who Mallory and I hired to run the farms, and it takes a lot of work, and he needs a lot of help. So
yeah, we talk a little bit about the hydroponic garden, why it's so important, and why it's considered sustainable.
Yeah, it uses 5% of the water that traditional agriculture would use, and a lot
it seems backwards, right? Like you think of it's more water, it's hydroponic.
But it's a system that's closed and it recycles all of the water. So but you're right, it's a bit counterintuitive when you say hydroponics. But yeah, there's no soil really involved. There's these little grow plugs, and I think each farm is equivalent to 2.5 acres of farmland. And lots of the lettuce that we get is sent from vendors out west. It grows in California, it grows in Mexico, and with climate change, there is an increased experience of droughts and shortages of lettuce. We have manatees, we have giraffes that eat lettuce every day. Now we would need 11 containers to feed the manatees, but it's definitely a good step in the right direction. We're growing hundreds of pounds of lettuce on site, and we can just harvest it and then the next day feed it out, and it's super good quality. It doesn't travel in a box from California or Mexico, which I think on average is like 1,800 miles per head of lettuce. that travels here from a vendor.
Wow.
We don't have any variability in the market price. So just to give you a little perspective, a box of lettuce can cost $35 one week, and it can cost $65 the next week.
Wow, I
And
didn't
hippos
realize
get
that.
a box a day. The
The
manatees are
giraffe
getting
too.
how many- Yeah.
Yes.
Anyone who's been to a giraffe feeding recently would have noticed this new lettuce.
Yeah.
And if you've noticed it looks different or something, that's because it's actually being grown here
That's
at the
right.
zoo. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going really well. And so, yeah, a lot of the daily tasks are related to the farms. Yes, always engaging our external partners. We frequently have meetings with the Office of Environment and Sustainability, and then different partnerships that we've established that are doing similar work in the city.
Yeah, so we go to a lot of meetings with like Green Umbrella people, 2030 District, Green Business Council.
City council members and their chief
Yeah.
of staffs, the directors of policy, we frequently interact with them.
Yeah,
and it's really important.
Climate, environment, and infrastructure city council committee. We go to those meetings sometimes. So just trying to keep involved, like keep our name and our faces in the community, and like we want everybody to know that we're here to help.
Yeah. And they do a lot of the heavy lifting sometimes with
Yeah.
the funding opportunities, with the Inflation Reduction Act, especially in all of the grant opportunities through the Biden administration that we've seen for environmental projects. There's a tremendous amount of money that needs to be accessed right now. And like the city, for example, we've recently partnered with them on a Department of Energy grant opportunity for our solar and energy efficiency projects in the community. And luckily this time they did a lot of the heavy lifting with the writing, which
good.
on a federal grant it takes ages. So these partnerships are essential to get the projects done.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's not like we just have tons of money that the zoo can... I mean, we do give tons, but, like, we need help from grants
Yeah.
and other
Yeah.
partnerships.
Yeah, Megan's been doing a lot of grant writing.
Did you ever imagine that would be a part of your job?
Not really. I hadn't really even thought about it until my master's program.
Okay.
And actually, I really enjoy writing, editing, and communication.
Oh, good.
So, although it can be tedious, I feel like with grants especially, it's like working really hard to create this beautiful proposal and then buying a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
You wait
to
for
see.
months. Like, are we going to hit the jackpot? And, when it sticks, it feels great. So
Yeah.
I'm in it.
Awesome.
What about you, Mallory? Do you have like a favorite part of your job on your day-to-day?
Oh, I don't know about a favorite. I really like working in facilities. It just feels like you're the ones that are actually like, you're making the stuff happen.
You're kind of
Doing
hands-on.
something,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's very hands-on. So I like anything that feels hands-on. Some newer things we've been doing in the last year. So we've got, if you don't know about the recycling and reuse garage.
Yes, plug it.
Yes,
tell us
yes,
more.
everybody walk over to the garage. So it's that new pole barn that got built behind purchasing. I asked for a space in that. So the bay, second from the right, we share it with Park Services, but we're collecting different like specialty recycling stuff in there. So like things that you can't just put in the dumpster that goes to Rumpke. So like batteries, light bulbs, plastic films, random electronic waste.
We have the cell phone recycling and
Yeah.
things. Is the public allowed to bring their batteries here? Are there things like that are happening?
Yeah,
For the public?
So the public right now, I think the only thing we're really advertising to the public is the EcoCell Gorillas on the Line thing. So there's still a collection bin down in the gorilla exhibit. Yeah. And so when that gets full, that actually comes to the recycling garage and we help package it up and send it to EcoCell. We don't really have the space to do anything
from-
like large
Yes.
scale like that yet. But employees, we definitely are trying to.
Yeah, that's
advertise it.
awesome.
So,
Because
like,
I'll
bring your
hold on-
batteries.
Yes,
from
I'll
home.
hold on to
Bring
things for
it.
like years
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
don't I don't know where to take them, I know I shouldn't throw them away. I think I have a bag
Exactly.
of light bulbs somewhere
Oh,
in my
bring it in,
garage.
Bring 'em in.
Perfect,
Yeah.
perfect.
We love that.
So I'm really trying to push it as kind of like an employee benefit.
Yeah, that's
'cause
amazing.
We all do that stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
we just
Yeah.
hang on
It's
to
so easy to
old
just come to
phone
work.
cords and stuff.
Yes.
And it's like I don't know what to do with this. So yeah, bring it here. I think operationally the stuff we're doing the most is plastic film. Maintenance is pretty on board now with light bulbs and batteries and FOL lights. We recycle those now.
Yeah. That's amazing. Those can be
Squirrels
recycled.
are freaking killing me, man.
Yeah.
They're annihilating those, but we're recycling them now. So those
Squirrels
They
are the-
even like the trash cans.
yes, don't even get me started on the trash cans.
I'll say they're the scourge of Festival of Lights. Like when
Yeah.
visitors will be walking all the time, they're like, "Why isn't that light on? Why isn't that?" It's probably because a squirrel
The
chewed
squirrel
through
ate
it.
Yeah. So we do a lot of those.
They're lucky that
No,
they're cute.
but-
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, they also chew up our trash cans, but that's another thing. So we're changing our trash cans.
Oh.
Big news.
I'm
Big
excited
news.
to hear this
It's
news.
been a long time coming.
Across the whole park.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Not a huge change, but so we're changing the lids for them. So we did like a little tiny case study where we changed a couple of the lids down in the Grove. The recycling lids are going to be pyramid shaped with like the smaller holes now.
Yes.
So because really it's hard because we let people bring in whenever they want to the zoo, right? So we only have so much control over that. So we're trying to gear it towards like what we sell at the zoo that people can recycle, which is mostly just like bottles and cans, right? Like that's the majority of it, cups, bottles, cans. So we're trying to gear it towards that. And like we saw in a couple waste audits that we did that a lot of the Pepsi cups coming from base camp that used to be compostable were getting put in the recycling, but because it was compostable they're not recyclable, but people think they are, so we changed those cups now to the recyclable cups. And
That's
so,
good to know. Every time I like look at it.
I know it's
You're like, oh
I did
Yeah.
too. Okay.
no! So
yeah,
confusing.
so we're changing those lids, and then we're also changing the trash lids to just be open.
Yes,
so you don't
okay, I
have
was
the
hoping you
flappy
would say that.
because there's so many issues that
Yes!
little flap causes, right?
You have no idea,
including-
but the squirrels
Yes.
one are an issue. But
Yes.
people like kind of put it in, but
Yeah,
then the trash
they're
kind
like,
of
I
sticks
don't wanna
out, and then
touch
I'm
it.
like, oh, I guess I'll push it in.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that.
Or you could call Mallory and have her do it. She's very used to interacting with waste.
I am very used to touching trash. Yeah, I'm not afraid of it. I did a lot of waste audits at Ohio State. I've done a lot of waste audits here. Do a lot of danger trash. So we're changing those, and then hopefully the squirrels, now that they have open access, they won't chew in and chew out and create holes.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, there's been plenty of mornings where I'll come in and just hear like,
Yeah.
what is that? And you find the nearest trash can, and you like open it, and then a squirrel comes
Yeah.
flying out at you.
Yes. So
They're stuck in
hopefully
there.
that issue will be mitigated, and then we have signs. We have
Nice.
signs to put on the cans that'll help tell you like what goes in
Perfect.
each can. So
Yay.
all of that stuff is on the way, and then we're gonna just do a sweep through the park and revamp all the bins at the same time. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
You mentioned like zero waste, and that's like
Yeah.
your go-to thing. We produce a lot of waste here, from elephants and hippos producing hundreds of pounds of literal dung, poop, waste a day,
Yes.
to all of the visitors. Can you explain like how you go to zero waste? And I
Yes.
love the events zero waste thing. If you'll tell us more about
Yes.
that too. But like, you said the composting, and then that it became an issue because of space, right? And like the location. Like, can you just explain
Yes.
how do you go zero waste when we
Yes.
make a ton of it?
So I don't know if you would say we used to be like fully zero waste, but we used to compost, right? Both post-consumer waste and like back of house operational waste with a place called Marvin's Gardens. That was back in like 2014. They got shut down by the EPA, which is like classic case Ohio
okay.
EPA.
We used to compost all of the manatee waste and all of the old lettuce that we pulled out of the pool through Marvin's Gardens.
Yeah.
And it was great because we didn't have any organic waste. Even the stuff that came out in the filtration system buckets, we put it in the compost.
Yeah, so Ohio has had a really rough go of it in terms of trying to compost.
Okay.
We have kind of strict rules, but there's also a lot of different feelings in different counties and different zoning laws and all these different things that you have to follow to be able to compost. Food waste in particular is the tricky
Okay.
bit. So there's different classes and different certifications you have to have depending on the type of facility that you are. So Marvin's Gardens was a class 2, which means you can take anything, including food waste. So they got shut down, and then we were kind of like back to square one. Obviously, this is well before my time. But kind of the way that we think about our waste at the zoo is we've got pre-consumer, which basically just means anything that we're producing from our operations. So we have a lot of pre-consumer organic waste, most of which is animal waste and bedding. And then there's post-consumer, which is anything that like the guests either bring in or like if they buy stuff in the cafe and then throw it away. That's all post-consumer. So that's kind of the way that we're thinking about it, and then obviously you get down to the different ways that you get rid of those wastes. So if there's like mainstream recycling through Rumpke, and then we're doing this specialty recycling stuff, which a lot of that is going to the Cincinnati Recycling and Reuse Hub. Like I said earlier, like space can be a big constraint for that, right? So like there's a lot of plastic film coming in and out of the zoo, but we only have so much space right now to collect that. But we are looking at trying to expand that and institutionalize it, because historically it's been a lot of, like Kim Klosterman just probably still has plastic number 5 pile up in her basement. She was like such a huge champion for stuff like that and the nitrile gloves and everything, which is awesome. But the trouble with it being kind of championed by single people in different departments is it's hard to make that zoo wide, and then if that person leaves, then that program kind of dies.
Yeah.
So it's been a big focus of mine to kind of institutionalize things, which is a lot of working with perk services. So I'm working with Ben Lyles to kind of plan for the future to build out his labor budget so he can hire more people so that it, ideally in the future, every department has a mainstream recycling bin, a specialty recycling bin, a compost bin, and a trash bin. And then his department is in charge of picking all of that up and taking it where it needs to go.
That's one of the harder parts because we're so far away from some of the different areas that to make it a daily part of our jobs is really difficult and slows us down from making those changes.
And like keepers don't friggin' have time to eat lunch, right? Like it shouldn't be their job to like be collecting like random plastic stuff and like just lugging it over to them. Like
that's our job.
That's my job. Right? So it's a lot of that. I feel like I'm all over the place. I don't know if any of this sounds cohesive.
I think maybe you can wrap up with all the organic waste and getting to zero waste. It is the hardest part of these net zero goals. The waste is it's never going away.
Yeah, we produce a lot of it.
Food. Right. And 80% of our waste is organic. So Mallory,
so I can back up a little bit back to the sort of like pre-consumer versus post-consumer. So post-consumer, like anytime you're working with other like guests and trying to engage people to put the right stuff in the right bin is just, it's really, really hard. So we're doing the basics, like I said, with the trash can changes and stuff, and that's kind of going to be it for now, as far as post-consumer goes. Because the place we can have the biggest impact is our own pre-consumer waste. We have the most control over it, and also like 80% of our waste overall is our animal waste. So that's really the heavy hitter that we're trying to figure out. So we've started working with a neighboring farmer up in Warren County who already does cow and manure composting. So he's taking now all of our elephant waste down at Elephant Trek. So he picks up a giant 20-yard dumpster full of elephant poop every week.
That's amazing he's willing to do that.
Yeah, so he's taking that up to his property and helping us do that as a pilot to figure out, okay, if we were going to do this on our own farm, how much space do we need? What kind of infrastructure do we need? How long is it going to take to break down? What is it going to be when it breaks down? Like, nobody really knows.
Yeah. It's
what elephant waste turns into. Yeah, it's a pilot. That's literally what the document is called in SharePoint. So we've been working with him on that, along with the zero waste events. So events are a more controlled environment. People aren't, except for Tunes and Blooms, that's a different case, but people aren't really bringing their own food and stuff to Zufari, right? So we have a lot more control over working with vendors of like who has what, making sure everything's compostable. And then we are sending all of that up to London, Ohio, which is like near Columbus, basically, to a prison there. So it's Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections. And they hand sort everything. So
cool.
the zoo subsidizes the pay for the inmates. So it's a fully inmate run program. We pay them minimum wage to hand sort everything. They're a class 2 facility, so they can compost everything. They have their own compost pile on site.
Such a meaningful program.
It's
As individuals, we had the pleasure of visiting and interacting with them, and they're so grateful. They earn so many skills through the process of this work that they complete.
Yeah.
And they all have release dates when they start the program, the work program. So they're all being released back into their communities, into our communities. And this is a true form of fostering rehabilitation, giving people skills, giving people money so that they can succeed rather when they get out. And it's really, really important.
I had no idea that was happening.
It's something we take a lot of care in talking about because it's not a partnership that we just entered into willy-nilly. Obviously, like it really feels like the type of program that is changing the system from the inside out. We absolutely did not want to take any part in paying them less than $1, which is what a lot of other programs are set up as.
In prisons.
Wow.
Yeah.
For work programs.
Yeah. And it, like Megan said, it really has a reducing recidivism focus, which is that like re-entry into the system. So it's very focused on not having them come back.
Yeah.
We don't want them back.
Yeah.
Which is the goal, right?
They make minimum wage, and they create a little nest egg for their families and for themselves.
And make a better environment.
And we've gone up and met them, talked to them, helped them sort, just like heard their stories and stuff, and asked them how they feel about the program. It's like we really want to make sure that they feel good about it. And we've heard some really impactful stories, and like a guy told us that he was able to help his son fix his car even though he's incarcerated.
Wow.
Like has the money to help out his family like that, which is huge. And like being able to come out and afford a security deposit on a place to live.
Right.
Like if you come out with $200, like what are
your
gonna do
options?
with
You're
that?
desperate.
Like,
You might reoffend because you can't eat.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I will just say that like a lot of people don't know much about sustainability other than maybe it's, waste management or reducing emissions, but sustainability is fundamentally about helping people and sharing and conserving resources. If we're not helping people and we're not working together and we're not supporting our communities, sustainability isn't going to do anything.
Right.
These projects aren't going to do anything.
And so many of them also have said, like, they look at waste totally differently now, and like when they go home they're gonna have their own compost bins and stuff, and like
That's so cool.
it's super cool. So they learn a
again.
lot. They get their CDLs, which is a special type of driver's license. They learn how to drive all kinds of equipment. They get their regular driver's license as well. They come out with a good chunk of savings. They get a compost certification from Ohio State. They get hooked up with connections like with Rumpke and other solid waste institutions that can hire them when they get out. So that's been really awesome, and it helps us have all our events be zero waste.
That's amazing.
And it keeps us going. I mean, I know, Mallory, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like we both have a passion for serving our community and helping people and representing the zoo and for conservation in general. And it's just such an honor to be able to participate in these programs and facilitate them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something to be super proud of.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so big picture, we're looking at how to scale all that up.
Okay.
Just the kind of the
Solarize
Big.
Cincinnati,
Yes.
get Cincinnati zero waste.
Yes.
Do it all.
The whole city, not
how
just
do we collect from all of our departments animal waste, not just elephant? What do we do with it? all that stuff. But.
So I know for a little while, like speaking of the animal waste, we were working with like a digester on site.
Yeah.
What came of that? I never heard like the end result for that.
I should talk about the digester because I know it has a really bad rep.
I want to hear about it.
So the digester is like the reason I got hired, basically, because Stephanie got this machine put in her lap, and she was like, "I don't have time for this."
So what is a digester?
Yeah,
for starters.
There's two different ways to talk about digesters when it comes to organic waste. There's anaerobic digestion, which is without oxygen, and then there's anaerobic digestion, which is with oxygen. So the digester that we got to pilot is a aerobic digester. So it has a fan in it, which is when you digest organic waste without oxygen, that's when you get that methane release. So that's what happens at the landfill because it's all buried underground and it's decomposing and releasing methane that way. So when you introduce that air, it helps it break down without creating methane. And I'm not a chemist, so I can't say that. But so we got one with the hopes that we would eventually get a really big one and just put all of our organic waste in it, and then what comes out is like it's more like a fertilizer than it is a traditional compost.
Okay.
So it's like a soil amendment is what you call it. So that was the hope. The company that we got it from is terrible. It's called Harp Renewables.
You're like, she's just in this like, too.
Everybody knows. In fact, word has gotten back around to Harp that I've just been trash talking them all over the country.
No pun intended.
Because I've had so many people that want to hear about this machine and like hear about how it's going, and like I'm gonna be honest. So they're based in Dublin, Ireland, which is like problem number one. They're so far away, and time zones and whatever. But basically, we had this whole like partnership situation outlined with them. They were gonna help us refine the product and market it and all these things. They basically like dropped it off and then ghosted us. Like we needed all kinds of support. It did not work the way that we thought it would. Also, we told them from the start we wanted to focus on animal waste, and then when it got here, they were like, "Where's your food waste?" And Stephanie was like, "What are you talking about?" We've been telling you from day one that we wanted to put like elephant waste in this thing. Like, why are you telling me I need food waste? Because the thing is really designed for food waste. That's kind of the conclusion we came to. So, they also like didn't have engineers on their team. Like, they didn't have a certified welder to build this thing. Like, it just...
How was it even made and
I have learned so much about the drama within this company. And, like, the old... like, it used to be one company that then split into two. And they, like, stole the IP from the one guy. And it's a whole thing. It's crazy. I won't get into it all. But
this needs to be a documentary one day.
It really, like, it's
this when you brought
wild.
up
Yeah.
I know, I was like, here we go again.
We still have that digester, so we've tried to revamp the program a few times to just focus on food waste coming out of the cafes.
So there's got to be plenty, right?
Yeah. So there's definitely enough to fill the machine that we have.
Okay.
It just doesn't work.
It just doesn't work. It won't. It'll work for a few months and then something will break on it. So right now we're in the process of looking at three different sort of large scale programs for organic waste, both food waste and animal waste.
Yeah. So stay tuned on that for sure. Like,
Yeah.
this is definitely the year of huge project implementation for our team and our zoo. And we have big news coming.
Yeah.
Feel it.
A digester may or may not be involved.
Okay.
You know?
Well, sorry to bring it up. I didn't know it was a
No, that's
source out
okay.
there.
It's good because a lot of people, like, it got a lot of hype when it got here, and then it just like kind of fell apart. And I think a lot of people have questions about it, and I'm down to talk to whoever.
Yeah.
It's like it's hard to kind of get the message out. But that's what's going on there. It's broken. It's here. We're figuring it out.
We're working on it. So you guys talk a lot about like some of the partnerships we have in the community and a lot of the stuff you do on site. How much do you all have a hand in like helping our new habitats sustainability. So like our elephant trek is going to come with a lot of really cool sustainability features.
Absolutely.
Like, do you guys play a role in any of that?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We work directly under Mark Fisher, who is, as you know, is the visionary for our sustainability program.
Kind of the guru, right?
Yeah, and,
Yeah,
and
that's a
we're
good
always
way to put it.
interacting with our solar partners, and they've been tremendous. So yeah, every little aspect and every feature we certainly have a hand in, but it's a collective effort, between Mark, our architects, our construction management teams, maintenance, everybody across facilities, aquatics, and it just trickles out so far. But yes, absolutely. We
And-
definitely have a part in it.
Yeah, our planning and construction management team is also looking at, we've been working with a company called 39 Forward. They've been kind of looking at how we do our planning and design and construction process, and thinking about how we can streamline that a little bit. And part of that effort is like making sure that the proper stakeholders are being engaged at the right points. And so we've had a lot of conversations with her about how to incorporate sustainability throughout
Into
the
new
whole
design.
process. So that's been really cool. And the Max Wolf project is going to kind of be the first test run of that sort of new process. So we're excited about that.
Awesome.
Because it's a lot of like, we end up talking about a lot of like nitty gritty weird stuff, right? It's like, okay, what about like should this facility have a washer and dryer? And like that is related to us and our work, right?
Absolutely,
And, like,
yeah.
for me to be able to say like, okay, do the keepers want to use like Tupperware for stuff? Like, can we get them a dishwasher? Like, things like that. So it's a lot to think about all at once.
I will also share, if we have time, a little bit more about our work on our team as well and how it relates to Boyer Farm.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've talked about Boyer Farm on the podcast, but it is a large property owned by the zoo. It was willed to the zoo in 1993. It's over 600 acres in Warren County, and we've done over 100 acres of ecological restoration, including restoring vital wetlands.
Yes, that was one of my
And-
favorite episodes with Brian Jorg. If
Yeah.
anybody missed that one, go back and listen.
And now we have leased 140 of those acres to a solar developer for a giant array.
I just
Wow.
heard about this.
Yeah, and we don't own the array, but we own the land, and we are kind of demanding that the land management is done right. And Mallory and I both support junior staff members on our team, and one of Jada's projects was to help facilitate land management plans for the array and make sure, alongside the team at Boyer Farm, the horticulture team, and us and Mark, and make sure that this is done responsibly and that the ecosystem around this array thrives. And it's been a long game, this project, but we've worked with, again, external partners as well, including sheep farmers. So we're going to have sheep managing the vegetation, no mowing eventually. And the sheep are also then a local meat source for the community. The land is still designated as agricultural land because, there's a lot of controversy in the transition of agricultural land to solar fields, especially in rural communities. And we're creating this model where we're planting thousands of trees, growing ground cover that the sheep will eat, making sure that sheep farmers that we're working with will use like a rotating paddock
Pasture.
model for the health of the soil and the health of the vegetation. Brian and his team are going to plant hundreds of nesting boxes for birds. As you probably know, we have graduate level researchers going out there to see how the solar array affects insect communities and how it affects mammals and, coyotes, bats, everything. So now other conservation organizations, solar developers are coming to us and they're like, how did you do this? Because we want to do this too. Because we have our own version of agrivoltaics, essentially. So just maintaining the health of the ecosystem while promoting renewable energy.
That's so innovative. That's
I have a
crazy.
question. Well, I don't mean it this way, but it sounds simple, but it's not simple, right?
Yeah.
But like, let's do it the right way. It seems, of course, have sheep mow the grass instead. Of course, plant plants so the sheep will eat, that sort of thing. But what does the solar array look like? I'm imagining the parking lot solar array. Is it something like that? How does it
Not
take up a lot of
really.
space, but also allow trees to grow under it if the solar arrays?
Well, the trees are around it,
Okay.
right? Because you want to harness the power of the sun.
Yeah.
But it's different because it's not like a straight canopy, like our
Oh,
parking
okay.
lot
That's
array.
what I was wondering, like how the trees would grow if they're under the canopy.
Yeah, no, the panels actually rotate on their mounting
okay.
with the direction of the sun. And so at the lowest angle, the panel is going to be like 18 inches off of the earth.
Oh,
So
okay.
that was another thing to consider
Okay.
with choosing ground cover. It has to be sheep
Yeah.
friendly
Yeah.
and not grow too high and so forth and so forth. We've also, but that's something that the USDA has helped us with and our sheep farmers. So yeah, there's a lot of considerations there, but it just looks like acres and acres and acres of a solar field,
Wow.
essentially.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the term is ground mount.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I haven't seen anything like this before.
So it's on the ground instead of up
okay,
in the
on
air
a
or
building
whatever.
or on. Okay.
Yeah.
And then who will be using that solar power?
Good question. So I believe that 50% of the energy is being purchased by Kroger, and then the rest is being purchased by other organizations in Warren County. So local organizations that want to meet renewable energy goals or net zero goals, but it's going to be locally distributed.
I don't understand that, but that's a whole other podcast.
So, yeah, it really is.
Yeah, but I'll share one more thing about this project that's super exciting. Is that we found a 5-acre patch adjacent to the solar array where we can plant a giant pollinator field of plants that pollinators love, native pollinators, and that's hard to do within the solar field because the sheep will just eat
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Although the clover is pollinator friendly too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've worked with the Bee and Butterfly Fund, and Jada has been maintaining these connections and local farmers, a neighboring farmer, to plant this 5-acre pollinator patch. So it really is a huge, tremendous project, and Jada and I presented on it at the OKI Regional Council of Government. And it's awesome. People
awesome.
are super energized
Yeah.
by the
Also
project.
a little vernal pool,
Yeah.
like in the middle of the array that the Ohio Solar Grazers is gonna help us kind of like maintain that and make sure the sheep don't.
Oh,
trample it
good.
and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
because we
So
need
that's
those
cool.
too.
Nice.
This could be a loaded question that maybe we don't have time for, but like we have 600 acres at Boyer. So when you say we found 5 that could be pollinator friendly, which is incredible, but like how do you decide?
There's so many areas of Boyer Farm that are pollinator friendly.
Already are, but
No,
how
I'm
do you
just
decide
talking
which
about-
part gets what type
Yeah.
of, what's the right?
Management.
Yeah, because you're doing so much good. How do you decide what's
That's
What?
definitely a Brian Jorgen
It's,
Okay.
it's a lot of conversations between Dean and Mark and Brian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably is what I would say.
Yeah, but we do have a syrup grove out there, and I know we're running out of time, but another project that we've been helping push forward is harnessing the power of the maple syrup grove.
That's
so
amazing.
maybe eventually you'll see us bottling Cincinnati Zoo syrup.
Heck
It's in the
yeah.
works.
Cool.
Yeah, we do a lot of random.
yeah, so much
I think
more
I would
than
say I
most
think you've
of
got
us
your
do.
hands in so many buckets right now, like just
Yeah.
helping everywhere.
I
Yeah,
hope you get
that's
an
awesome.
idea of some of the stuff
Yes,
we do
I mean,
now.
I always had like a little inkling of like here bits and pieces, but you're doing way more than I ever thought. And now I know more about the things that I knew a little bit about. But I'm just throwing this out there. I want new habitats to have clover because that's way more
Yeah.
sustainable, right? Instead of this
Oh,
grass that
nice.
we have to cut or like.
Love that. Okay.
Yes, so just
We'll
keep that
pitch
in
it.
mind next time you're making habitat.
Right.
Like, how fun would that be? I just want to get that out there on the record.
Great
so
idea.
we-
And
Any other ideas from?
well, as
I'm
Mallory
serious, though,
mentioned,
actually, we love
one of
getting
the
ideas.
one of the beautiful things about working in facilities, and especially under Mark, is like we freaking implement projects left and right. We don't sit on things for a really, really long time. Like we might sit on the idea for a long time, but when we Oh, we get stuff done. Yeah.
We get stuff done.
Do we beep that? Do we redo it?
Yeah. You can beep it. You can beep it.
I almost slipped a few times.
But yeah, it's cool because if there's an idea that makes sense, we do whatever we can to make it happen, and usually we make it happen.
Yeah, that is.
And like sometimes it's not always related, but super fun still. Like Kat and I were just chatting the other day, and she was talking about, I'm obsessed with sea otters now, and I've got all these ideas and whatever. And she was like, I want to put these bolts in the bottom of the pool. And then I talked to Mark Cunha, who's like running that project, and I was like, can you talk to Kat and make sure we get bolts in the bottom of the pool? And I was like, yeah, sure, that's easy. So it's just like these fun little connections. That happen that, that's not even
It's organic.
You
Yeah,
get
it's
to
just
help
part
out
of
in
it.
different,
Yeah.
little different ways.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Do you have trivia for us today, Mark?
I do have trivia if you all are up for it.
Yes.
It's Cincinnati Zoo sustainability trivia.
Oh, God.
So I'm just highlighting some of the.
Are you going to embarrass us?
Probably.
I'll say it. I may embarrass
Quick, pull up the
Jenna.
website.
But this is just to highlight some of the incredible work that not only the two of you do, but your whole team, everyone in the facilities team and sustainability team does here at the zoo. You guys should be really proud of the work you've done. So I just want the listeners to kind of hear some of these statistics, some of these facts. It's all mind-blowing to me. So first question we have is related to our brand new elephant trek habitat that's going to be opening sometime in the near future.
Very soon.
That keeps changing.
Very soon, Elephant Truck will hopefully be opening. But Elephant Trek has, below the habitat, below the exhibit, there's a large, very large stormwater retention tank to help use and recycle some of the rainwater that falls here at the zoo. How many gallons is this stormwater retention tank at Elephant Trek?
It is 1 million,
1 million
gallons.
Mallory said it with the Dr. Evil.
Do you guys know that in comparison to what's under Africa?
Under
Yeah.
Africa, it was 400K.
Okay, that was going to be my guess for
Yeah,
elephants. So
and then
400 must
under
be my-
Roo is like 100,000-ish.
Wow, okay.
1
Quite
million
big.
gallons. It's insane to think it's that big. For like people who are local to the tri-state area and might know the reference, I used to volunteer at the Newport Aquarium. Shout out to Newport Aquarium. I love it there.
Ooh.
But
I'm
Newport
looking for a
Aquarium.
contact there, but we can talk about that.
So Newport Aquarium, they advertise that they're 1 million gallons of fun because
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole aquarium at Newport Aquarium is just over 1 million gallons. So this stormwater retention tank below Elephant Trek is like roughly the
Wow.
size of Newport
Could be an
Aquarium,
entire aquarium.
which is
Wow,
insane.
fun fact.
Yes.
Yeah, crazy stuff. All right, next up we got, this is something that I'll be shocked if Mallory misses this question. Not to put the pressure on you right here. So in 2024, we talked about some of these ticketed events the zoo has, these after hours events. How many of the zoo's ticketed after hours events in 2024 will be zero waste?
Yo, all of them.
Every one of them.
You scared me for a second because we've definitely like put some stats on the vine that I probably wouldn't remember off the top of my head. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I told the public once, or I think there might have been donors, that we recovered 10,000 pounds of food, usable food
Oh,
at an event.
no.
And I think it was like
It was,
5
like,
for the year.
Yeah, I think it was,
But it happens, you know. Whatever.
yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, every one of these events will be zero waste in 2024, which is props to you two and your team and all the work you put into it, all the dumpster diving you've done to make that work, and the partnership with the facility outside of Columbus. Yeah, that's like such a
It's a
cool
huge
partnership.
piece
I
of
had
it.
no idea about any of that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, cool partnership we've got. All right, next up, what percent? This is talking about some of the waste, the different kind of waste the zoo has here. What percentage of waste at Cincinnati Zoo is considered organic waste? So like animal waste, food material, that kind of stuff.
Do you know?
Jen,
Well,
do you
I
have a
know you
guess?
said animal waste makes up 80% of the organic waste, but I don't know what.
No, that's it.
That's it?
You got it. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. Yay.
Yay!
Yeah, right at 80%, which kind of highlights like that's such a large amount of our waste. Why it's such a big challenge to tackle.
Yeah.
But
We generate like 1,500 tons a year in total.
Wow.
wow.
So 80% of that is like 1,000-ish, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right. That's
Quick, grab
A
a
lot.
Yeah, a lot. It's a lot.
Yes.
a lot of waste. Maybe one day we'll get a working digester to help with
Maybe
it all.
one day.
I think it's going to be bigger than that, though. I think like you'll be You'll be surprised. I think when it's taken care of, it'll be really taken care of. So it's exciting.
So next up, this one may be a challenge because I had to do some digging to find this statistic. So we talked about the eco-cell, the recycling that we do here at the zoo for cell phones, electronic devices, all that kind of stuff. Roughly how many electronic devices are recycled through the eco-cell program each year?
We just met them because they came and picked up all of the cell phones, but I don't know if they gave us any numbers.
I don't know that one.
Yeah.
So
Stumped me.
do you have a guess?
Is it like thousands a year?
It is thousands. How many thousands?
Just from us or for eco-cell?
Just from us.
Oh,
just from
okay.
Cincinnati Zoo.
I'm happy that it's thousands. Maybe like, I want to say like close to 5,000.
What was the question in pounds or how many phones?
How many
items?
devices? Like
Items,
individual devices, yeah.
I do know that some of them are new, which is funny. Like,
Weird.
I don't know why people are recycling brand new cell phones, but they get perfectly usable cell phones that are like in packaging.
Interesting.
In packaging?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then they like.
Can they use
yeah,
them?
Yeah.
Can we make the best? Can we
Like swap
They
out
do,
at least?
they resell whatever
Yeah.
they can.
Wow.
It's like, yeah.
I don't know.
I'm gonna guess 3,700.
Nice.
3,000. Mallory, you got a guess?
I'll go with 6 then, I guess.
You guys, surprisingly, you're all a little low, which makes me
Oh,
proud of the
wow.
program.
Hey.
They estimate about 10,000 per year.
Great.
Yeah,
Wow,
roughly
that's
10,000
a
per
lot.
year, which is, that's incredible work by not just our zoo, but the community helps out with that too.
Right.
Like people from all over the community bring in devices for that, so that's really cool.
Well, then Apple needs to stop upgrading their devices all
I
the
agree
time.
with that.
You know?
Yeah.
It just there's too many out
Yes.
there.
And they keep getting bigger. I don't need a big phone.
No.
I agree
I
with
need a
that.
small phone.
All right, last question I've got for you here. It's talking about our lead buildings. It seems like, at least anecdotally from what I know, every single new building we build on site seems to be a LEED certified building. And this is like an eco certification that says that the materials that built the building and everything that goes into it have been organically, sustainably sourced and all that stuff.
Well, I mean, not every single material, but it definitely is a scorecard for
Okay.
sustainability and energy efficiency as a whole, and it's reflective of how the building performs and functions with those features.
And
Okay.
in some ways, it incorporates the building process a little bit too. So there's a waste aspect to it as
Yeah.
well. So like you get points if you divert 90% or more of the construction waste from the landfill. So things like that.
Gotcha. So if you're building certified, you're doing something right in the building process with the way the building functions, all of it. So what zoo in the United States has more LEED certified buildings than the Cincinnati Zoo?
Oh, that's a good question. We have access to that
That's a big
list too.
Probably like San Diego.
I was gonna guess San Diego, somewhere in
Yeah.
California,
Maybe
Oregon.
Woodland Park.
It's a trick question. None.
None.
That
makes more sense.
Yay!
I definitely thought it was us.
And, you know, I hope they don't ask us that on the exam because Mallory and I are taking the LEED GA exam, which is
Oh,
a
wow.
certification coming up on September 6th. So, yeah, we got to study
Good
up.
luck.
Yeah.
Hopefully you get that question.
Well, if you guys don't have anything else you really wanted to add, I just have one last question. Are you ready for
I'm
it?
so ready.
All right, Mallory, what can I do?
If it's yellow, let it mellow.
Absolutely.
Which basically just means water resource. What's
Conserving water.
Conserving water.
Yeah.
Especially when it's gonna storm or we're gonna have a heavy rain event before, after, during. Because in Cincinnati we have super old pipes because we're a super old city, and it's combined sewer overflow system. So basically, the pipes are only designed to maintain and hold a certain capacity to send it to the sewer district where they treat the water.
Water treatment,
plant.
yeah.
Gosh, thank you. So when those pipes get overwhelmed with a large storm event, they just open the floodgates and send sewage into the Ohio River.
And into our neighbors' basements.
And which are disproportionately people of color that are more likely
affected
to have
by
their
this.
their basements flooded. So if you try not to shower, do the dishes, run your dishwasher, flush your toilet during these times, it helps. It actually significantly helps keep that that water out of the system.
I highly doubt many people listening knew that or do that.
Well,
So
I mean,
I'm glad you said it.
Yeah, and this is part of the messaging of the Cincinnati Zoo and part of these massive facilities and infrastructure projects where we are using water retention systems to recycle water. You know, you just mentioned the 1 million gallon water retention system under Elephant Track. We're catching rainwater and we're keeping sewage out of people's basements in these massive rain events. And guess what? With climate change, these rain events are only going to get stronger and longer. You know, Cincinnati especially is susceptible to extreme heat and extreme precipitation.
I'm feeling that this summer, that's for
I
sure.
know.
Yeah.
So it's all related. And yeah, I mean, it's a basic way of saying conserve water, but if it's yellow, let it mellow.
I love that one.
Love to hear it. Well, thank you ladies both for joining us. I'm really proud of the zoo for kind of giving you guys the platform that you have, and for you two for doing everything that you do with your platform. You should be really proud of all your work.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Thanks for sharing it with us.
Thanks
yeah.
for letting us share it.
Yes,
Yeah,
of course.
Thanks for inviting us.
Always. Well, for everyone that's listening, thank you for tuning into another episode. Until next time.
If it's yellow, let it mellow.
If it's yellow, let it-
See you later.
Bye.